I have to share with the world how much I loved this book. It is the 21st of April, 2026, and I've just completed my first ever cover-to-cover read of Treasure Island. I've also, and this is very important, read for the first time this appendix, my first book, an essay from 1894. I bought the book at Union Ave Books in Knoxville, Tennessee, downtown Knoxville's independent bookstore. I bought it, I happened into the store on a day when I was walking around the city with my parents. I saw that this essential book from an author that I'm growing to really love was on sale for just $10 here in a nice Penguin Classic edition, and I just felt like something was calling me to purchase it there and read it. The last time I bought anything from Union Ave Books was 13 years ago in August of 2013, when also happening into Union Ave Books on a walk, I decided to purchase this used copy of The Adventures of Augie March. I remember it cost something like $5 or $6. Two Penguin Classics separated by 13 years, give or take 4 months or so, and one redesign. Somebody was commenting on a video of mine asking me if I had detected any sort of decline in the quality of Penguin Classics over the years, and I couldn't help but think about that comment while I was reading Treasure Island. I don't think I really want to talk about that right now. I'm kind of giving just the basics of the background of the paperback itself before launching into the things that I have to tell you about how much I love the book. Of course, there is a map in the book. This immediately makes me love any book, essentially. The reason I said that reading the appendix was very important is because it explains the use of that map, the origins of that map and the use of it. First of all, the map came from basically imitating a kid who wanted something craggy to break his mind upon, so he drew pictures on all the walls. And in imitation of this boy, Robert Louis Stevenson drew himself a map, and this map he just named Treasure Island. And the characters and situations were allowed to bubble up from the dimensions and the features of that island. The island was a mine of suggestion, granted positive support, not mere negative immunity from making little gaffes about how how a distance of such and such a length wouldn't be coverable in such and such amount of time or something. Also, while I'm in this essay, I mean, the fact that the book kind of comes out of the map that was sketched hastily is so exciting. But another fact here is that he is admittedly proud of John Silver, who, and he, to this day, I guess to the day that he wrote this essay, so roughly 1894, rather admire that smooth and formidable adventurer. He admires that smooth and formidable adventurer. So it's validating that two things that I treasure. Number one, making arbitrary maps. I've always loved the little suggestions that maps have of the stories that might kind of cut across them. You know, what voyages they might make possible, or what it might be like to make a home in such and such a cove or something. Like, I've always wondered about that, and I've always enjoyed it. Number two, John Silver is the most interesting character in the book. John Silver is, I mean, there are competitors. There are so many competitors. There's Ben Gunn, there's the Doctor, everybody, even minor characters. The guy with the red cap, you know, when he's dead on the boat. I mean, whoops. Well, there are going to be some spoilers here, I think. Well, I'll try not to spoil too much. If you haven't read this book, you really, really should, and I don't really care what you're interested in. I mean, the book is lopsided in its way. I mean, it contains no female characters, which is noted by Stevenson in his essay about his first book. But the things that are lopsided about it, the things that it leans into, give it identity. Of course, it's a wonderful book. Of course, it's going to give you like no shortage of pleasure, whether you watch my videos because you're interested in strange, obscure works of highbrow literature, or for any other reason. I'm kind of reminded, when I think of John Silver, I kind of think about when I was in West Side Story and I was playing the role of Riff, I think is his name, and I realized just how much the story is a love story between Riff and this guy, Tony. I wonder if I'm getting the names wrong there. But basically, there's love inside the Jets, like love among the Jets for each other, you know? This is no secret. But I thought that one of the pleasures of reading this book was discovering a love for John Silver. And another pleasure of reading this book was getting to experience that John Silver wasn't being dumbed down in the process of my love for him being kind of eked out. That's a little bit weird, but I'm just saying it's so cool to get closer to the character and then also have their rough edges not be smoothed out. And of course, we all know that John Silver is brought on this voyage as a sea cook. I learned also from that essay in the back. All my information is from this essay. Good work on the editors here at Penguin Classics for including that essay. Good work on Robert Louis Stevenson for writing it and for including in it insights such as, to make a character, you have to cut away and deduct the needless arborescence of a friend's nature. In that essay, he also says that one of the initial titles for the book was The Sea Cook. That title was nixed when the book was serialized in a boys magazine. So this is big. I mean, it's just big to me that the pleasures of the book are so solid. You have them so fully. You really appreciate looking at the map and watching the progress. This progress from Skeleton Island. I love the description of this little tongue of land as what separates or what divides Skeleton Island from the sea to the east. I like it as a divider. Also, I feel like the moment of the greatest physical peril, like the moment of greatest, this is an action movie, for me took place, I think, on this spit. And it had to do with a boat called a coracle. While I'm kind of bouncing around from thing I liked in the book to thing I like in the book, when I say that the pleasures are really solid, I mean, it's just really amazing and a testament to the magic of literature that he puts in the book the pleasure of going across the map and having characters bubble out of the map and the complexity of John Silver. And then here I am, hundreds of years later, having those two things be pillars of a deep enjoyment of this very book. But yeah, while I'm bouncing around, can we just appreciate this table of contents? I think this is an interesting kind of video. It's useless to anybody who knows anything about the book because I'm really just fawning, but I think it's important for me to fawn. I think I would have appreciated coming across a video like this earlier because I think all too often Robert Louis Stevenson is heard. You hear him praised by Jorge Luis Borges, and you're just like, okay, I'm not going to get to that later. I'm going to read Borges first. That's just some guy that he kind of quirkily derives something from. It's nonsense, and you're depriving yourself of one of the masterpieces of world literature by not reading this book. I haven't even started talking about the phrase making, but while I'm fawning. What about this table of contents? We've got 6 parts. I'm going to go ahead and spoil another thing about the essay in the back of the book and say that I thought it was interesting that he said that the first kind of burst of composing the book was till chapter 15. When you're writing something long and then you get to a point in it where you've laid out so much of the world and then there's the problem of kind of what to do with the world. This is really presumptuous and very factually inaccurate, but I just want to say it. I really felt that feeling again, kind of vicariously, imagining myself in the situation of having drawn up the reasons for this voyage, all the people on the voyage, the place they go to, down to one person on it that's marooned there, and then being like, okay, what do we do from here? If that were the situation, I would really relate to it. And it was the situation as I briefly imagined it in my mind. And then I just need to kind of briefly show you this part to basically, to win a lot of you over to this book if you're not really convinced that you want to read it yet. I didn't read the introduction this time. I decided to skip the introduction, but I took from it, and I talk about this in another video on my channel, that there's something Californian about Treasure Island, and there's a nice kind of hybrid quality to the locations in Stevenson where they're inspired by the places he lived, the islands that he lived on, trying to seek good air for his bad lungs or whatever, and then also his home, and then also the California where he went to meet his wife and stuff. It's inspiring to know that it's possible to make a masterwork out of putting these things together. Gosh, in that essay in the back, he's also so forthcoming about the books that he rips off or took things from, the authors he took things from to make this book, which is another thing about this book that makes it so darn inspiring. I remember reading to the hesitating purchaser, having no idea what was in store for me. Having only the idea of what's in store for me that you get by seeing images from this book as digested in other forms of media over the years, as this book has entered the cultural, become like a cultural neural highway. Also passes that test I always talk about how when you look back at the front of the book, you think about just how far you've come. While I'm on that topic, I want to say that another reason why the book is successful, I think that like further rereads will take me up on, will prove this right, which is that the way the book succeeds is because the peril isn't just physical, it's also like there are people who are older than you who are taking you under their wing, and your safety depends on them, and also like how cool you feel depends on their opinion of you. And if you're ashamed in their eyes, like that's the biggest, think of the word, that's the biggest peril of all. And if you have to cry in front of them, that's the biggest courage required of you, of all. Does that make sense? The fact that it's the social thing. It's the social thing of like having anyone you look up to and having your relationship with them change or be at the, having it threatened with change. That's the real danger, not like you falling off of a cliff or you falling into a pit or something. Although that is also very dangerous. One of the biggest things I thought I had to tell you about, which is the emotional peril that makes this book a true adventure, probably lends it a lot of its timelessness. This is a good segue. I want to start talking about the phrase-making capability of this book. Like, for fans of anyone who reads Melville or Shakespeare and is just like, oh my gosh, what a phrase, how did they come up with that? This book is full of that stuff. You're gonna love it. Read with a pen and a pencil handy. A pen for if you want to underline something that you know you're not gonna like regret underlining later, and then pencil for if you're just underlining profligately and you know you might regret some of those underlines later and you may want to go back and erase them. But see, look at this. Captain Smollett would confess I had not lost my time. This isn't like a really prime example of the phrase making, but it's a good example of what I was talking about. Something to actually be afraid of. Somebody who is your captain saying to you that you've lost your time. Like that actually sends chills down my spine. Imagine the person whose ship you're on right now saying, hey, you've lost your time. You deserted the ship and what you got from it isn't much, you know? Like, that's actually terrifying. On the next page, I was appreciating the I ams in this line. At last I came right down upon the borders of the clearing. I will own that I here began to weep. It's no coincidence that phrases that I loved and underlined also coincided with those moments of danger spiking, emotional danger, emotional courage. But I actually feel like I didn't really need to underline many things to be like, oh, this language is good, because I essentially loved the language through and through. I think he says in the essay that it was a plainer style or something. Like it was when he said that he was embarking on the project of writing a book called Treasure Island, I think like literary friends of his were saying, or he claims that literary friends of his were like worried that would lead to lapses of style. But of course, time has redeemed this book 1,000-fold, and even in its 64th printing, you know, it's the coinages it offers are still just as sharp and bright as ever. Speaking of coinages, I also do love the list of coins that you see toward the end of the book, including a coin with a hole through it that looks like it should be worn around on a necklace or something. This was a fun thing to see every now and again. You may see the notch on the lower side of the frame to this day. Like, I like these storytelling touches whenever you refer to the place or the time where the person is writing the book. You bring something from the past of the tale into the present of its telling. The notch that comes from some like battle scene outside the inn can be seen on the lower side of the frame to this day, which it like the pleasures are just like, I feel like you could write a whole kind of book about the pleasure of this device. You could talk about how it makes everything real. It makes everything more vivid. It shows that the things in the fiction didn't just happen in the fiction. They persisted into reality. You could also say that they kind of comfort the reader by saying, hey, look, here's a little nod to the fact that I survived this tale, and you can tell because otherwise I wouldn't be able to notice this notch today, you know? This happens again later in the book when Jim is talking about a certain object that he comes into his possession at a certain point later in the book that's right by where he's writing the book. I guess like serialized literature is just better. We should all either serialize our books or we should write as though we're serializing them with the knowledge that we need to be exciting in each serialized installment. Like, we shouldn't serialize an installment unless it offers something that makes the paper worth getting that day. I'll just offer this phrase. Just then a sort of brightness fell upon me in the barrel, and, looking up, I found the moon had risen, and was silvering the mizzen top and shining white on the luff of the foresail. And almost at the same time, the voice of the lookout shouted, "Land ho!" I remember that being a moment when I was my breath was taken away, not just by language, but by image. Oh my gosh, the apple barrel. I forgot about the apple barrel. I remember reading about the apple barrel and thinking that's going to be my favorite thing in this book. Like nothing is going to top that. And then of course there was the coracle, and there were all manner of other things I came to really appreciate about the book. But I've talked about everything that I loved, so I'm gonna let you go. I talked about the map and the loving John Silver. I guess I haven't talked about loving John Silver in detail, but you have to kind of read the book to get there. When Jim and John Silver are suddenly allied at a certain point, like by necessity or by some weird kind of grace that gets into John Silver somehow. Like those moments are so wonderful, and they are kind of like a crux of this book, or for me, or they were a crux of its first read. I think another reason why I don't want to talk about John Silver too much, or don't want to talk too much more, is that I have a phobia of telling you things about a first read that are gonna like misrepresent the book. Because of course, like all I got was a glance at this book, but it was enough of a glance for me to kind of go online and immediately post this rave. So, all right, see you everybody.